Hey everybody. Hey, thank you for the intro and hi. And it's great to be here with you today and kind of talk to you about a subject that is dear and near to my heart. Um, Before I kind of start on talking about what I'm talking about, which is kind of how we can combat fake news at scale. A little bit about myself. My name is Maxim Nitsche. I'm one of the co-founders and CEO at Deep. We developed this new AI that structures the world of information in real time and then makes it actionable. Before that, I was a co-founder and CEO at Math42. We co-founded this company in 2010, which was kind of the first fully AI-based global private math tutor that helped over 7 million kids around the world. So while I am a baby face, I've been in the space now for 14 years and seen quite a bit. And so I'm really thankful for the invitation to kind of talk about this topic, which is, again, kind of traceability information, kind of combating fake news. And before that, I kind of want to iterate the impact, the importance, and what the problem exactly is. So I think we can all agree on this, right? Trustworthy information or quality journalism is the bedrock of our democracy, right? It's what helps us hold truth to power. It's what helps us understand how we should vote. It helps us make decisions for us, for our kids, for our grandkids. It's what everything that we've built in the past, let's say 250 years of democracy, is based on. But the problem is that, sorry for being a little bit American with my theatrics, the news is broken, right? If we look at the stats, 29% of people now say that they are worn out by the news. 38% say they actively avoid the news. And most terrifyingly, 58% of people now say that they no longer trust the news. If we don't have trust in the news, if we don't have trust in information, public discourse becomes impossible. We've seen that. We can now not only not agree on kind of our inferences from the facts, we can't agree on the facts, right? Someone says the crowd is this big, someone else says the crowd at my inauguration was this big. I don't give a shit. That's my truth now, and that makes discourse on very complex issues like climate change, like abortion, like social rights, very, 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 very difficult. So why is that the case? Well, it's to do with the amount of fake news, the amount of misinformation that we're confronted with on a daily basis. It's this section, this fourth estate that has helped us so far, that's been thrust into a modern world with social media, with Gen AI, with all of these other tools that kind of do everything in their power to undermine it. And they just don't have the tech, they don't have the means, or we as a society don't have what it takes to kind of combat that flow, that tsunami of misinformation that's there. And that's terrifying, honestly. But I'm not here to just terrify, I'm here to kind of maybe talk a little bit about whether we can fix it, right? Is there a way out? Is there something we can do? Is there a way forward for us? Or are we just doomed? First off, I don't believe we're doomed. I think this is something that we can address. But let me rephrase the can we fix it. When I talk internally or with anyone, I always talk about this problem gap solution structure, right? We have a problem, now we need to understand what the gap is. Why don't we solve it today? What's missing, right? And then it's much easier to understand what a solution could be. So what's the gap? Well, the gap is, in this case, whenever I bring this up, in any situation, in any circumstance, there are always two suggestions. The first one is, well, let's build this huge manual fact-checking apparatus. And the second one is, and that's been going on for the past few years, can Gen AI fix it? And that's been, I think, the suggestion for any kind of problem in any field, public or private, for the past 2 years, by people that don't understand what Gen AI does. It's an amazing tool, but I'll detail why Gen AI might not be the best approach for it. But first, with the first one, kind of manual fact-checking, exclamation mark, is that not the way forward? The big problem is we're confronted with a volume of information that is so vast that manual fact-checking, while I think it needs to be part of the solution, like having a human in the loop is important, it wouldn't be able to kind of just follow on and get behind everything that's there, right? And there are two main problems that if you could solve them, manual fact-checking actually becomes an option. One is understanding what information needs to be checked, right? What I mean by that is not every piece of information should be checked, needs to be checked, has the same impact, negative impact or positive impact on the discourse. If Donald Trump writes something, that has huge impact. It reaches an incredible amount of people. If I write something on my blog, my mom will say, Maxim, you've written that very well. I'm so proud of you. But it doesn't matter, honestly, right? It's not something that needs to be checked. So if we were able to solve that problem, kind of understand those are the candidates that need to be checked, we'd be much closer to the solution. The other point here is copies, paraphrased copies, exact copies, whatever they are. If I fact-check one piece of information, a bad actor that wants to kind of undermine me will just copy it and post it somewhere else, and then I'll have to fact-check it again. If it's much simpler to to copy something than it is to fact-check, so this will always be faster than the fact-check. That's what kind of broke the knees of Facebook in 2016 in the Cambridge Analytica scandal in the US, but more importantly in Venezuela, where you had a very limited amount of fake news that just was paraphrased and so passed through the filters and wasn't able to be checked. If you're able to find those copies, if you're able to understand what needs to be fact-checked, suddenly, although everyone laughed when I said manual fact-checking actually becomes a relevant option. Just because I have to talk about it, because I would be asked afterwards, isn't kind of Gen AI the solution? One is, I'll start with the second one actually, with the justification aspect. The big problem of LLMs, of neural networks, is that they're black boxes. Problem number one. Why is that a problem? Well, if I live in an open society, everything that relates to information needs to be justifiable, needs to be traced. We have to have sources. And if I have a system that inherently isn't able to justify but present anything very, very, very convincingly, which is part of the problem, then it's very difficult to use that for that purpose. I think Gen AI has a huge purpose in communicating because it's able to make information much more human, much more personalized if I have a specific use case. But the justification aspect is a problem, and the other problem is scale. We're talking about an amount of information that is insane. And if you look at how much time it takes to answer just one ChatGPT query, there's a disconnect there, right? One ChatGPT query currently takes up, it's an ecological problem on the other side of things, takes up the energy of, or the equivalent of what one light bulb would use to run for 1 hour or something like this. If you were to try to kind of fact check with that method, with that system, every piece of news without understanding what's going on, well, you'd need a couple of nuclear reactors to power that and maybe more. And on the other hand, there's more, there's just more information than there's time at that point. So Gen AI for that specific use case, understanding what's relevant, understanding what needs to be checked, and then checking it is kind of dead on arrival. So that's the gap, right? It's understanding what's important and what needs to be fact-checked. It's, of course, fact-checking, and it's finding all the copies. So is there a way? That's why I'm here. It's not just talking about problems. That's what I talked about. If you're able to understand what needs to be checked, you're already in a good place, because you've discerned kind of everything that's, let's say, just an opinion, or look at the food I ate at this restaurant, which doesn't need to be checked, from this is what happened in the election, or this is an economic indicator, something that I can't check. I've reduced the problem by several orders of magnitude. The second one is it true? I need to fact check the information that I want to fact check. And this is where I believe manual or a human in the loop still will be relevant. It just needs to be much more efficient. And that's where we come to, can we flag all the copies? If I write Maxim is in Berlin at a conference, or if I write Mr. Nitsche is in the German capital holding a talk, am I able to understand that those two things are the same piece of information, fundamentally? This is a very simplified manner. If I'm able to do this, suddenly I have an efficient system, because I understand what needs to be checked. I verify or falsify the information, or even say that we don't know whether it's true or false. I'm able to flag all the copies, and those two last things actually inform the first thing again, because suddenly I know, okay, this might be a bad actor. The likelihood of me needing to fact check this goes up, so suddenly I improve the system, right? And this, or some aspect of this, is what we've been working at Deep for the past 6 years. There are two technical aspects and one manual aspect. So the first one, or largely manual aspect, what needs to be checked is a technical aspect. This is something that if you understand the concepts, if you understand the structure of the world of information, you can understand this might have impact, this will reach a lot of people, this is about this topic and not this topic. Technical problem. Is it true? In my opinion, still a human in the loop thing, still manual, mostly. And then, again, can we flag all the copies? Purely technical. Has nothing to do with any human. It's just identifying all the copies, saying, if this is false, then this is false, this is false, this is false, right? We believe that with what we've developed over the past 6 years, we've solved 1 and 3, right? What needs to be, understanding what needs to be checked and being able to flag all the copies. And that gives the manual approach scale. That's what enables this to become something that I can do for a very limited amount of information to something that I can do for a very large amount of information. So how do we do this? So these 36 dots are a very simplified visualization of the world of information. Imagine these weren't 36 dots, but like millions, trillions, well, missed billions in the middle, of pieces of information. If I could look at this and kind of understand, okay, these relate in such a way, and these have impact, then I could solve it, but I can't. Here it's just a gray mess. So what we did is we created this new AI, this new format that takes, here normally there's a beautiful animation that makes one gray dot, an article from the New York Times. I'm sorry for this, that's on me. We take any document in any language, and we put it into this new format we created. We call it UCCC. It stands for Universal Characteristic Compressed Comparable. And what that does very, very quickly is that it gives us a quantified understanding of any document in any language. If you think about, kind of everyone knows Shazam, right? What Shazam does, it's exactly the same thing. It fingerprints a piece of music. You hold your phone to it. It gets a fingerprint, sees does it match any other fingerprint, and says, okay, this is what you're listening to. Basically, we created that just for text in any language. The thing is, that's half the battle. We still have the amount of information that's there. So what we do is we don't do that for one piece of information. We do that for every piece of information in real time, right? This fingerprint is hyper efficient. We analyze, quantify, and structure any piece of information within, let's say, 500 microseconds. That's fully parallelizable per core, blah, blah, blah. That's hyper fast. What that enables us to do currently, just to show you what that then entails, is we're able to analyze, structure, and leverage the world of news in German and English in real time with one single AWS instance. That's it. That's the scale and that's the efficiency aspect that enables us to tackle this at scale. Because once I have understood kind of how everything relates, a structure emerges. Again, normally this beautifully merges into one another. And here I can see, okay, this is Maxim's article and this is like very simplified. This is Trump writing about something. Suddenly I have priority. Suddenly I can say, this is what I should tackle first and this is what I should tackle later, right? That gives us kind of the first, what do you need to check? This I could enrich with stuff like, this is something that someone that has already published fake news. This is someone that is trustworthy, kind of to deprioritize or prioritize. Again, right? And the next aspect of it is, this is a connected network, meaning that if I flag, let's say, this piece of information as fake, I can flag the entire connected network. I can flag every single copy, even paraphrased ones, right? This disregards or this doesn't care for paraphrasation. It understands that these two sentences were the same, right? So, yeah, I'm going to wrap up. So this is what we've been able to do. This is the scale aspect that we've been able to bring into this thing. So what's next? Well, we solved the two technical things, right? We've solved understanding what has impact and what needs to be checked. Once it's checked, we're able to flag all the copies. There's the second one that's missing, kind of checking what's relevant, or checking the veracity of a piece of information. Sorry, I've had a late night. And that entails partnering with fact-checking networks. That exists. What we give them is a scale for them to actually have impact everywhere. So we're going to partner with them. We're going to partner with the people that actually have the information at hand, meaning especially publishers and big tech social media platforms. Because without them, this is not going to work. This needs to be an integral part where when a piece of information is disseminated and we flagged it, every copy on that network needs to be flagged as well. So that's kind of the next step there. And we're in talks with all the big ones. So that's what we did. Thank you. I'm very curious if you have any questions, critiques, ideas. I'm very curious to talk to you. That's me. This is my contact information. Happy to talk. Thank you.